There
Look
we
at
go.
that. Okay, great.
All right, we're off to the races. Guys, thanks so much for doing this. Yeah, we've got just under an hour or so. Bex is going to do most of the talking. I just thought I'd just say hi and kick us off. Yeah, this whole thing is like it's kind of a new, still feels like a relatively new lane that we're running in. Probably 3, maybe 4 years now of just trying to grow this thing of kind of what does it mean for us in our context to do a multi-generational worship expression. We've all grown up with different versions and iterations of that, from the, compelling to the pretty not compelling. No offense to anyone that does puppet ministry, but it's just not up my street, um and yeah, just trying to find new ways to do this thing. And I think we realized even before moving to the US, actually, we realized that like the kids and the teens and the young adult thing isn't what it even was when we were kids. There's a little bit less sort of demarcation. It feels like it's a bit more of like this thing where kids are actually, you guys have all probably heard of Kids Bop. And so kids now aren't listening. It's not really Barney the dinosaur anymore. It's like kids are listening to a lot of what teens are listening to, and it's just a much more open thing. And so we realized that we wanted to do something that kind of worked for as many people in the room as possible without it feeling overly kind of aimed towards infants, or teens or adults, but like to find a moment, yeah, to do something that works. So Bex has got a little bit of the backstory of how it kicked off at Southlands. And then we'll just kind of explain a little bit of the sort of the why, the the how, like how are we actually doing it, and some of the things that we've learned along the way through trial and error. Could we do the thing of throwing questions in the chat thread? That way that there can be loads of questions, and we'll just see what we can get to with some of the time at the end. That's cool. I don't know.
Sorry, guys. There we go.
There we go.
That's what I was looking for. Okay. Yeah. So as Sam said, this has kind of been a few years we've been building this, what we do as once a month. So for anyone who doesn't know what family worship is, once a month. So kids are in worship every week at Southlands, and I realized that that's not what most churches do. So ignoring that, imagine it was in your setting and you don't ever have kids in. So once a month we have all the kids come into worship, and we tailor 15 minutes of worship towards kids, but we call it family worship. And we do different songs and with actions, and we make it, fun and entertaining, all of that. But so a bit of the backstory, just to get to understand the whole thing. Obviously, when the world shut down in COVID, probably like us, kids ministry stopped, church stopped, we all went online. Well, in California, we obviously could meet probably a little bit before some other places because we had some sunshine, and so we met outside. And we met in our parking lot, and we would always be like, okay, we've got all these kids. What are we doing? They're going to be with us. So we would do some teaching for them. Then we moved to a big tent. And again, kids were in, they were with us. And then fast forward, being back into our main meeting inside. And we still had the kids in with us. The team absolutely loved it. They were like, it feels great having kids in with us. It's like great atmosphere, like we love it. And all the parents of young kids, I was one of them, was like, really? Is this really, how are we really loving this? Because, have a 3-year-old, 4-year-old hanging off my arm whilst I'm trying to worship. And so anyway, so we kind of just carried on as we were. And then there was one particular Sunday where I kind of walked around just to see how the atmosphere was during worship one Sunday. And as I was walking around, I really noticed, and I did it for a couple of weeks consecutive when I wasn't leading. And I noticed that like what we had was um, a lot of young families arriving late because they just knew. I think no one ever said it, but I think they were arriving late also because it was like then less time for them to have to entertain their kids. Um, and then a bunch of people who were trying their best to like engage in worship, um, and like trying, but also had like a 3-year-old melting down next to them. But also knowing like this was a real like the elders had decided like we really like we view this as like a real like we want the kids in. And so actually like we kind of went away and we were like, this feels like something that we need to think how we can help basically. Um, and
So
so
yeah,
that's
it was born out of it wasn't it was kind of a problem to solve for
yeah,
us. It wasn't like a hey, we've really got this like vision to do this. It was we kind of fell into it, which yeah, so that's just how things go sometimes. There was a it was kind of born of necessity. Um, and so it was one of those kind of yeah, it was kind of one of those happy moments where we realized something needed to be adjusted. The other thing I would quickly say, just on it, is we were trying to grow in a few areas as a church, and we kind of broke the team up into sort of these small think tanks. And one of the think tanks was kind of uh, challenged to try and think through how can we um, encourage and foster more celebration in our church, just generally. Just like how can we make sure we're like a joyful people, you know? Because we kind of try to be naturally, and we're often also intentional about it. But like, how can we grow? How can we keep doing that? How can we make sure it's something that is a value of this kingdom people, you know? And so actually out of that think tank on sort of celebration, like a culture of celebration in our church, one of the things that came out of that as well was this kind of, man, this kind of confirming we really think we should do like at least some sort of monthly moment that's intentionally like very kind of high celebration, high fun, um, and something that's multi-generational. So those two things kind of coincided in the same season for us.
yeah. Um, And yeah, I think when we were beginning, like we knew like this has to work for the whole church. Like this can't just be like suddenly we do kids songs on stage and then then what we'll have is we'll have the rest of the church arriving late on that week because they don't want to sing, you know, kids songs. And so really when we kind of birthed the idea, it was like we want this to be family worship, which is why we're very like specific on calling it family worship. Like it's not kids worship. When we host it, we're like, hey, this is a moment for the family of God. And actually just even realizing like this is a key thing that actually as the church like we want to be a worshiping people from like newborn obviously within but little kids all the way up to those people that are celebrating their 100th birthday. Like we want to be people who worship, and actually as people as it's our responsibility in the church to facilitate that. Like we wanted to make sure that that was happening for all ages. And as well as obviously we had a tiny little one, we also had at the time like a 9-year-old who one day would be in youth ministry, and I was like, I want to know that she is ready to engage in worship in youth ministry and isn't just kind of living off this kids ministry kind of expectation. um and so, yeah, so that's kind of where it was birthed out of. And so, yeah, in short, to the general looker-oner. We do, is that even a word? No, not really. We do 2 to 3 songs at the top of the meeting. It's fun, high energy, and we try and purposefully lead it somewhere, maybe some refrains of "Here I am to worship" at the end. And we have people on stage doing actions in kids ministry t-shirts. And so in theory, it looks quite like, just quite simple. But there are definitely some like specific things that we have like purposely done and choices we've made, which I think has actually really helped kind of the success of it, actually helped our church like really own it. So I'm just going to run through a couple of those things. So the first is like the songs. We essentially thought to ourselves, we are going to aim the songs at teenagers. And then that means it's accessible for kids and to do actions to, and it's accessible for adults to kind of, and young adults to kind of engage with. So our target audience is actually the teens in the church. They just don't know it. And obviously there are some songs lyrically that we have said no to because actually for young kids it's like, yeah, that they can't really sing that, like we're not really going to go there. But all in all, it's been a lot of the teen songs or just engaging songs like that. We used to be part of a thing called New Day in the UK, which was a big teen event for thousands of teenagers. And so we started off actually introducing some of those songs, because that was just like one of those where it's like, okay, I know that we can have thousands of teenagers engaged in this song, so let's do some of those. And then over time, we've kind of added different songs that actually like we wouldn't necessarily do on a Sunday morning if it wasn't for family worship. So I don't know if you know the song I'm So Blessed.
Okay.
Like, yeah, on my best day, I'm a child of God, on my worst day. And so, and actually, although that feels kind of like, we wouldn't necessarily do it on a normal Sunday morning, and it can feel a little bit kiddie. Actually, it's one of the ones that has connected the most. And by the end of the morning, you have like the whole room, going like, oh, every day is a good day. You're the reason why. And it's amazing truth that they're singing. So that would be the first thing, is actually thinking of songs that are aimed at teens, and even songs that, when they're a little bit tired, the church kind of go like, oh, we're still doing this one, actually brings new life into it. So we actually just got there with Glorious Day. We had kind of reached a point where the church were like, we just knew we were a bit tired of Glorious Day. And so we just actually reintroduced it as a family worship song, and it's given fresh new life to it because
there's actions and all of that stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the first big one. And actually, just to say here, we have a bunch of resources that we are very happy to share. We're actually in the process of refilming all of our videos because some of them are still just me in my front room doing, we had filmed a bunch of them and then we've added some new ones. So we're really happy to share the actions we have and the videos we have, even if it just helps get things kick-started. And so then you would see all the different songs that we use in that pool. But we could go over later which ones we kind of go to. Okay, so the next thing would be the volunteers range in age. So obviously we have our worship team serving, but then we have across the front doing actions. We have most weeks we would have 4 people doing actions. We try and make sure 2 of them are either teens and younger, and then 2 of them are adults. And honestly, this has been one of the most surprising things. We started it with like people who were enthusiastic for doing dancing and things like that. And then over time, we had people coming to us and saying, hey, can I do actions? I know I don't have, like just like 20-year-old guys like that actually are not like, you know, they're big soccer players and stuff. And they're like, I'd love to do that. Can I do that? Can I sign up for that? We're like, yes. And we had like a couple of the dads, you know, 40-year-old men who like don't like they don't dance, but they're like, I want to do this. I want to. And when one of those guys got up, all of our 10-year-old boys that were kind of just stood on the edge, like they were in. And so just realizing like actually as the church themselves come around this and go like, yeah, I know I'm going to make a bit of a fool of myself, but like I'm going to do this for the kids. It brings the different kids forwards and into it and stuff. So that's been a huge
And just to say on that, this was kind of like our idea, but I think we realized quite quickly for it to work, we're going to really need buy-in from like kids ministry people. And so Shannon, who leads, sorry, you might be getting to this, but Shannon, who leads the kids ministry here, was just like, yes, this is such a great thing. I want to jump on it and sort of how can we like do this together, you know? So right from the beginning, there's been real buy-in from her to help, just even help us find volunteers and people who are willing to do that. And you know, it began very organically, but now I think we're at the point where kids ministry are dealing with scheduling who's going to do actions. Like that's now in their world, and it's amazing. And we've got videos on a Google Drive of how, you know, if volunteers need to learn the dance moves or whatever. And listen, it's not like we're really not sort of going like, guys, step four, you missed step four. You're a little bit late there on the chate. You know, it's not that. It's like, it's just gives everybody a general sense, and the actions are very, very simple. Um, you know, again, things that, you know, people are in rows still. We're still in rows, relatively confined. So it's things that it's just a lot of things that are very basic. Anyway, yeah, the buy-in I think from kids ministry has been so key. Um, and so it's something that you kind of will want to, if this is something you want to push into, you will want to sort of have those conversations. Because I think it wouldn't have actually succeeded if it wasn't something that we felt like we could run at together.
yeah.
And we started, I think, maybe once every 6 weeks, even.
Yeah, we really had no idea if it was going to actually be any good and whether the church
Yeah.
and
And
so we
then
kind of were like once every month, once every 6 weeks, and now it's like every
I
month.
think it's every month. And by about the third one, you could see the buy-in just growing actually from all kinds of people around the room. And yeah, like you said, it becomes to where people, you know, like my next door neighbor, he doesn't even have young kids.
All his
He
kids
would
have left home.
he would come in and he would find out that it was family worship and be like, yes, you know, because it's just a joyous thing, and we're still singing truth and it's still worship, but it just sort of gives everyone an excuse to have a bit of fun, you know. So anyway, just thought I'd chip in on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so as Sam was saying about the actions, so this has been one thing that actually has been a very purposeful thing. And, you know, even when I've actually thrown some songs to other people to do actions for in our team, they've come back to me and I'm like, hey, let's just simplify a little bit more. You almost like don't want a dancer to do them because like again, like these actions need to be so simple that they can be mostly, I would say 60% done in their seats.
Can I just say they're simple enough that even Alan Frau does the actions.
Yes. Yes.
It's quite a beautiful
There's
thing
a lot
as
of
well.
repetition. There's a lot of arms down, arms up, you know, da 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 da. We've actually got I don't know when we should show the clip. Show the clip in a bit.
Yeah.
Shot. But we have a little clip to show. You think we should show it now, Ryan? Okay. Now
This
I've
is
got to work out how to
actually
screen share
this is
this.
actually from like 3 days ago, isn't it? This is from this
Yeah.
past Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, share.
No.
No.
See, now we've got to work out the screen share. Okay, let's see. Oh no.
Does anyone know where screen share is?
This is just recording our incompetence, isn't it?
Forever.
Oh, I don't know.
You
Forever.
you keep talking and
Okay.
I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
Corey, lead us. Don't you know how to do these things? Blake? Ethan Malaba, come on, bro. Someone jump in here who knows what to do.
Should be a green button somewhere that
Yeah.
says share
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, there should be
I'm
a
worried
green
that
button that says
Oh,
share.
it's that simple.
It's that simple. Great, we got it. Okay. Okay, just to say, this is probably not going to sound great. So, but
So you'll see
the
here,
heart behind
this
it.
this here. Can you guys see the arrow moving on my screen? This here is Ryan Kennedy, late 40s, early 50s, dad, absolute legend. Just decided I want to do this. This is actually our daughter Callie, who's 12. This kid is like 10 or 9 and is just absolutely crushing it.
And then over the there's another 20-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Did you intend to have sound?
Make some noise if you're freezing.
Should I show some more? Oh, there's more.
My troubles peace in my troubles. Let's look to him today. Saved control.
Helpful, guys. It's good.
Cool.
Okay, so yeah, so even just seeing that, like you can just see how simple some of those actions are.
And all of the people you see in the front dancing are adults.
Yeah, you can't see the kids' arms. And so I think one of the biggest wins when I was thinking about it, one of the biggest wins that we have found is that actually when we're making these actions simple, actually what we're doing is we're helping people cross that line of like, Southlands is actually a church. A lot of people are coming from places where like that's not how they worship. And so actually we see this like, especially students, like over the space of like a few years, like they slowly get to a place of like, oh, I can use my body, I can use my hands. And actually this has really been a game changer. Like I would say family worship has really been one of the things that has helped the whole church take a step forward in just like demonstrative worship. Because you're actually a lot of the time where, even in that last song where it's like, you're here and I know, like, it's like, that's the action. And so everyone is following the action. And those people that actually don't feel comfortable to do this off their own accord yet have found themselves doing that. And so we noticed when we first started it, like that week, the worship that we did in the response to the message, people were a lot more physically engaged. And obviously we know like the physical engagement isn't, that doesn't show everything, it doesn't show the heart, all of those things. But actually it is a good signpost of like people's freedom and joy in that moment. And so that I would say is just like one of the biggest
We actually
wins.
didn't expect that. That wasn't part of the like, oh, this is why we're going to do this. It was one of those byproducts.
Yeah.
Where you go like, oh man, this is actually like spilling over into the 3 weeks where we're not doing kids worship. And again, like as Beck said, we're not we're not trying to enforce like we must be a super charismatic hands in the air church, but I do think, especially in the era we live in, to have tools to help people grow in actually the physical expression of worship, that like our conviction is that's very biblical. It's not this sort of charismatic 70s happy clappy thing. Like, and I say that to our church. I literally from the mic will say, like, guys, we can think of this as something that was invented 40 years ago by, you know, the Jesus people movement. Like, it's not, it's in the Bible, it's in Psalms, and so we talk about that with our church, and kind of, but it can be uncomfortable, and it can be something that you need to kind of grow in. And I think so often people they need two things. They need permission, and they need to be shown, like, hey, you can do this. Let's try this together. And so I think, we're trying to do that all the time, and we're trying to help encourage people. Hey, why don't we in this moment, like, if you feel comfortable, why don't you raise your hands? Like, it's just a sign that, you're open to God's presence, or him speaking to you today. And we have just found those moments there's a lot more, we're feeling there's a lot more oil and freedom on those moments because of the family worship kind of shot in the arm that you get once a month. Does that make sense?
Great. Okay, yeah. So actions, super simple, not overcomplicated. And then the next thing is hosting. So this is another place where we have partnered with kids ministry, but we have tried to be intentional with just who hosts that moment. And I don't think it has to be the kids ministry team, but often they have like language where they're used to engaging with all ages, compared to some of our meeting hosts that are the elders who might not.
They also just have rapport and
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah. And so so most of our times actually we have someone from kids ministry hosting, and then occasionally we'll have just, one of the normal meeting hosts. And we just set the tone every single week. We have just every single time. It's kind of been a little bit repetitive to the point where we're now like, we should probably find some new language. But it's like, good morning, church. Like, we believe as the people of God, as the family of God, we get to worship together. We want to, adults, we want to be a great example to kids, calling out the things where it's like, adults, we know that you can do these actions in your seat because we've made them so that you can do that. Hey, why don't you be a great example and worship and freedom and those different things. And just really setting the tone of like the elephant in the room kind of thing, where it's like, yeah. And then even like when we close out, we will often have the grown-ups pray over the kids before they leave, or vice versa, around the other way, like, hey kids, hey, why don't you just turn around, stretch out your arms, and we'd love for you just to pray with us over the grown-ups who are about to hear a message and you're about to go out, and just finding ways to just involve the kids and the grown-ups, everyone. So that has been a great way just to host it. And then I think also being able to include other moments that we've done. And this is something we actually feel like we need to pick up a bit more on, because we kind of have just done it a couple of times, but we need to do a bit more. But being able to include other moments, again, for the wider family to do. One time we did, and I did steal this idea. I'd like to make it clear I didn't think this up myself, but we did paper airplane prayers. And so we got everyone to take a piece of paper, build a quick paper airplane, and write on it like a God-sized prayer that we want to, pray together, just helping the kids like, okay, we're going to pray together. And then at the end of worship, we, 1, 2, 3, throw. And again, it's like just those moments that it feels like it's for the kids, but the knock-on effect, like the amount of adults without kids that were like, that was so fun.
So also
like,
moving, also powerful.
Yeah, like it was like, oh, I love that. And just drip feeding those moments of just like, yeah, we can have fun as a family, as a community. And so
I think too, just to say, like, and yeah, I can speak in in generalization here, but you know, we're living in a time, especially in our context, like kids, people aren't, people around here are like trying to have more dogs than kids. You know, so I think there's something really profound and powerful about like there's something in the kingdom of like we actually cherish and like love our kids. Like this is the next generation. Like this is the future of the church, you know. And then to teach the kids, like there are people in this room that have been like faithfully walking with Jesus for decades. Like, isn't that amazing? So to kind of like speak to both ends is something that we've tried to do. And so like Beck said, sometimes we'll have all the adults like just pray briefly with the host for kids as they get dismissed out to kids ministry or vice versa. A few months ago, we did a couple of really up-tempo kids songs, and then we just sang
Great Are You Lord.
the chorus of Great Are You Lord. And I had this idea basically where like, hey, just this time, why don't we, if you're over 50, why don't you just sing it, and everybody else, let's just listen. And I said, man, isn't it amazing to hear the sound of these older saints, like who've been singing praise to Jesus, some of them for decades. Like listen to their faith, you know, and then we all got to listen and the kids are listening. And then I said, you know, if you're under 20, let's just have that group of people sing. Everybody else, let's just listen. Let's just listen to the like, you know, these believers who are full of zeal and full of yeah, just full of expectation for God's gonna do in their lives. Let's just listen to them, and then you can hear all the little kids singing. And it was like, it was kind of like goosebumps. It was like such a beautiful moment of just the multi-generational thing that, yeah, was, again, you kind of, these little things unfold as you go that you never thought were coming, but have been really, really powerful.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a few questions, so feel free to keep adding them in. The last thing I was going to say is, maybe you can think on this one because I don't think there are too many on that, but the last thing just quickly just to say is, and this sounds incredibly harsh, but I would say the biggest thing, and this is probably one of the things we learned quite quickly, is that it's, you know, in the same way that we don't, you know, just put everyone up to preach. We don't put everyone up to host. You know, I'm saying, hey, we want to be really inclusive and we want, you know, we love it. We're not looking for perfection in the dance moves and stuff like that. One of the things that I would say is accepting that actually at the beginning, it may actually just be a very small team of people that lead it. Actually, for the first, I think, 6 months, only Sam and I did family worship because we just knew that our other worship leaders just needed, like they would need to just get there, see it. And they probably could have done it within the first couple of months, but we really needed to like set a bit of a like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're going for. This is like the kind of heart behind it. And then actually now I would say we're at a place where 85% of our worship leaders, we don't even think now, we just like kind of schedule and go like, oh, it's your turn to do family worship. But actually at the beginning, it was like very intentional, that it was, you know, us, and very intentional with who did actions, very intentional with who hosted, very intentional just to kind of like, set the tone. Yeah, set the tone and that be okay. And there were a few weeks where even with actions, I think we kind of were like, yeah, this kid's enthusiastic, she wants in. And then it would be like, oh, you like look really sad and not happy on stage. Like, okay, let's do some training with you. Let's have you, you know, do this, you know, like, you know, and it's like, you don't want to be like, no, you can't. But actually, like, we had to learn quite quickly, okay, if Callie's, our daughter, is doing it, she's very visually engaged, we can have someone who's not as visually engaged with her, you know. But if these two do it together, they, you know, so, and it's just going like, this is okay because we the aim is to help everybody else engage. And so, you know, working out different personalities, like I think was the big thing that we learned quite quickly. Because it actually does have an effect on like people's engagement. Depends on who's up there and stuff. Okay, so kids. So what we actually have done in terms of, so the question was, do your kids' team members that lead the movements rehearse with your worship team on a Sunday morning? So what we have done is we've actually, again, because we kind of just stumbled into it and we're like, here's the video, here's the actions. They did used to come a little bit early to practice with us. And then we quite quickly realized that actually the way that the worship team practiced, they'd have to get there so early. You know, we'd have to switch it all around. That actually where we land now is they get there a little bit early. There's someone that meets them who's kind of like spearheading that up. It's actually someone from kids ministry now, but it used to be me. Would make sure they have their t-shirts, and then they take them into one of the kids ministry rooms and use the videos to practice, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Pray together, and then they're ready to jump up on stage. So that's kind of how we've ended up doing it now. So there is some kind of structure to it. And then with the youngest age of kids, so normally our toddler room is open during worship. So I think like under 3s can go in on any given Sunday, like to kids ministry. But on family worship, everything is closed. So all kids ministry rooms are closed, and all kids are in for family worship. So yeah, but again, like we know most churches, that's, you know, they don't all have kids in there. So yeah, so let's just read this quickly.
Aaron, I can't remember how we promoted it, or whether we just said, hey, we're doing this.
One week.
And it realizing that you can't force the buy-in so much as sort of show it. And then again, it was really surprising, just the 3rd or 4th time around, we began to hear like this is becoming a real firm favorite thing. You know, and we're talking about 3 years in now. I think it's become something that, you know, as long as you're around for a month, you'll probably experience it. But we do, even though it's familiar for lots of people now, we are still really intentional about somebody getting up and saying, hey, this week is family worship. This is a little bit different. You know, this isn't what we do every week, but this is what it is.
Well, even like this week, it was like all the students were coming back, and we were like, for some students, this might be a little.
Yes. Yeah.
This church does every week.
So we had to say, hey, if you've shown up for the first time today, this is our family worship Sunday. It's going to look a little different.
And I think not apologizing for that and going like, because I think it's easy, but we don't always do this, but it's like actually, again, just explaining like,
we're behind it.
You know, we believe, and this is what and actually for the grown-ups in the room to acknowledge like, we're worshiping together as a family. And one of the things that we did make sure at the beginning when we first did it, it was like this. So usually on a normal Sunday morning, we would have 25 minutes of worship at the beginning. Then we'd have the message, and then we'd have whatever time left at the end that the preacher gives, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15. The idea was on a family worship morning, we do 2 to 3 songs. Kids are in kids ministry a little bit earlier. And then actually we have 20 minutes on the end
to respond in worship with just adults. The kids are now.
And so actually they're getting the same, you know, they're still getting their time at the end. So those people that don't necessarily at the beginning, like they're still getting that chunky time of worship at the end. So I think that has been, and again, just kind of reiterating and honestly, it really does kind of, I mean, for us, it only took a few months for the rest of the church to kind of.
What I would say though, in terms of, you know, whether you really want to promote it or what's the word? Just endorse it to like your people. I think that it's something that like there was immediate sort of like, we're doing this as a team, like as a staff and as a team. And so, you know, it always surprises me to see the front row of like elders and leaders like doing actions. Still, it's like, oh man, like they're really doing that, and they don't, they could have just as easily not. And so it's I think that's been part of it too, is just knowing like, man, the front few rows where, and we occasionally will actually say, guys, like especially over the summer with people out, with leaders out, occasionally we'll say, hey, why don't a few deacons, we need a few deacons and even interns, we need you guys to kind of come and help set the tone in the front half of the room. Um, so just knowing that your team and your leaders are kind of there to help. That's like the best kind of promotion.
Yeah. And I think as well, I'm suddenly remembering at the beginning, we do 2 services, but I think we still would have done this whether it was 1 or 2 services. We actually got a bunch of key like families in the church that we actually said, and lots of them they just happened to be our friends, but we actually kind of went to those key families with young kids, said, hey, please can you be there on time? Please can you be present? And I mean, for us, we said, hey, can you be there for both services? Just the worship time, so that like it's not crickets up the front, like the kids are setting the tone for the other kids to join. And now we're at the point where it's like, on Sunday, I was like, I don't know it. I don't know where my kids are. They're somewhere in this crowd, but but actually it was originally like, okay, kids, we're doing this as a family, we want to see you there, and that I think really helped as well. And then just to quickly whiz through the other, so we can share all those different things for you, and I'm happy we can write out some like different hosting scripts. What I'd love to be able to do is just send all of like the recordings of different, examples of what we've done. But we need to kind of work out if that's possible. So check in. I mean, I think what happens really is some people check in before, and then some people check in on their way to kids to drop them. Again, because we're so used to like having the kids in, we normally end worship and it's like, do a turn and greet, kids, you're dismissed. And so kids ministry don't take like any like ownership over the kids until they're released. And so the same happens on a family worship morning, where it's like they're checked in and then the parents drop them, and they then trickle back in, and they might miss an announcement or two, but kind of that's just how we do it.
Can I just share 2 things quickly? I know we're like fire hosing a little bit, but there's 2 things I want to mention before. One of them's left my mind, but one of them hasn't. One of the things we've seen, and that's been really, really cool, is actually, because we've become as a team quite used to it, and quite used to like this kind of pool of songs that kids are really familiar with. One of the things that's been really cool is we were able to launch about a year and a half ago, actually doing worship in the kids ministry area. We weren't doing that before. And I've always found that really, really intimidating. Like, who are we going to send in there with enough kind of energy and rapport? Is it going to be like that faithful old guy with the acoustic guitar that's been doing it in kids ministry since the 80s? Like, maybe, but actually like, and one of the reasons I was intimidated is because kids they want energy. They want, that's so serves and helps them. And so I think because we've been able to utilize things like tracks, it was quite an easy step for us to add a little rig in kids ministry. It's literally on a cart, and once a month in kids ministry, not in the main meeting, but in kids ministry, someone will literally pull out the cart, plug in the stuff, set up a mic. Maybe there's an acoustic guitar player, maybe there isn't, maybe it's just tracks and vocals, but they'll have their own worship time in kids ministry, actually doing the same actions that they've learned from doing it in the main room,
just without a live band,
but with tracks. And so there's that sort of like consistent thread for the kids. They're doing it in both spaces. And And that's been really, really cool because I think, again, like as we've gone on in our journey of trying to like lead the worship life of the whole church, we've realized like it is this ecosystem of spaces. There's kids and there's infants and there's youth and there's all these different things. And so to try and kind of create a little bit more of a cohesive thing. And also, honestly, it's been a great space to like, like my daughter's 12. She's not really ready to lead or necessarily even, jump in yet into like a bigger Sunday morning spot. But she's been able to start leading songs with the kids in kids ministry. And it's like, that's such a win, and there's others that it's a great space for them to kind of get experience.
And we have
get
people on the
experience leading.
team that also go, hey, they'll sign up for worship, but they'll sign up for family worship or kids ministry.
Yeah, there are some who's like, I never want to lead on the main stage, but I really want to help lead with kids. And with tracks now we use playback on multi-tracks. It's like child's play. I mean, it's literally a big green play button. It couldn't be easier. And so we can, if you guys want help figuring out some of that setup, we can help with that as well. But that was one thing I wanted to say. There was, the other thing was, Bex mentioned it earlier, just really briefly, but we've tried to make sure that we're not just modeling sort of celebration, but we're also modeling some like adoration and sort of, so to go back to the classic like praise and worship paradigm, like we're trying to make sure that once we've sung, I'm so blessed or glorious day, we're also then taking some moments to like slow things down and do some really simple like choruses that kids can engage with, like whether it's Here I Am to Worship or Great Are You Lord, just like, and just invite them to lean into the both, so that actually from a really young age there's this they're kind of learning the patterns of like revelation and response that we're trying to engender in our older worshipers. And so yeah, that would just be the other thing I think to be intentional with. And again, we're growing in that and trying to find out ways that we can help that be clear. But yeah, that's been a really sweet thing too. So
Yeah,
I think we're at time. And that,
any other questions? But yeah, I'm just gonna go Ryan.
If folks did have a question or want to get some of the liturgies that you guys are using or a little bit of insight on the multi-tracks approach, what would be a helpful way?
That's
There
what
you
I was
go.
gonna say. Read my mind. So this is my email address. Please email, and then Sam's is just samc@southlands.net. Please email us, even if you actually, want to have us jump on another chat with other people in your team or, whoever. We'd gladly do that. We can help you, know the different things. I can share the resources we have. And yeah. And again, the ways that these are the ways that we have found fruit. And we know, like, we generally on a Sunday morning, we run click and tracks and different things like that. But actually, like, this is easily done even without that. So much of it is just kind of intentional heart and those things. Did you have a question, Ethan?
Yeah, I did. So just wanted to just quickly ask, before time runs out, is you were talking earlier about how there are some songs that you won't do for Family Sundays just because of how young the kids are. But just how as a team have you guys decided what songs are okay to do on a Sunday? Like the ones that the kids can connect with the most? Because like a kid singing Refiner by Maverick City maybe isn't the best thing to have because they don't fully understand the what's behind it, the words that they're singing. That, so how do you be intentional with choosing the songs? Just around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's kind of through a similar you know, we are often like, there's certain songs that we love listening to, but we won't necessarily lead on a Sunday. And so one example I would give is I Thank God. So we will use the chorus of that on family worship. But actually, you know, the lyrics, I'm going to forget them now, but it was like, where it talks about being a vagabond. Sorry, let me just pull up the lyrics so I don't get it wrong.
I think there's just in principle, there are certain songs that like you feel like, man, it's worth taking a moment here to explain what this means
Yeah.
so that it connects.
Like No One with Yahweh, like, you know, explain to the kids Yahweh. Like that's great.
Yeah, No One has been a good song for kids worship, family worship,
Get it right.
because it's just some like big simple themes. Like there's no one like you, or you know, the whole bridge section of that song, you know, who else can, you know, bring down the giants. Like these are like kind of, you know, these are like some Sunday school ideas, you know, that kids are familiar with. But as you say, there's other themes and things that we may go like, this song is worth explaining that in order to do. I think
yeah, so example of like I Thank God, where it's like I'm slowly drifting a vagabond, and just when I ran out of road, I met a man I didn't know. Just going like, I don't think my 7-year-old
is ready to sing My Doubts Are Burning Like Ashes in the Wind, you know. They could, but it's a little, that song is a little bit abstract, and it's fine. But I think we're trying to make sure there's sort of big, quick, immediate themes like God is big, God is kind, God is amazing, Jesus is the King. You know, these are the kind of things.
But that chorus is great for them to sing. And so, yeah, one of the other ones that actually would be one that is not a typical Sunday morning song that Sam found and introduced is the Every Good Thing by Pat Barrett. And it just, you know, literally says like, every good thing in my life comes from you. And it's like, just again, like it's actually really good truth for adults to be singing.
I don't think we would have introduced that song
if it wasn't family worship,
if we didn't have family worship, but it's become like everyone loves that song.
And we get the kids when it's like there's the bridge, the actions are literally point to things in this room that are good, and they're all pointing at each other and their parents, and it's just, yeah, again, just a good
Yeah,
truth.
it's goofy, but what we can reach out, and then we can also you know, make sure we've compiled like some of the songs we do or all of the songs we do, and we're trying to constantly grow that. But any other questions and resources we can get to you, we will.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. We want to honor you and bless you and just call out the good that we see in you guys forerunning something that maybe some of us aren't really doing yet, and really stirring our faith for this and giving us some vision. And I just love how thoughtful you have been and full of faith you guys have been. And yeah, I just love even the double clicking on the concept of having little think tanks within your team to go away and dream a bit about some stuff. That was just a throwaway, but really inspiring. Like I love that one of the thoughts was, how can we generate a sense of celebration in our times when we're together? I love that. So yeah, well done. Thank you guys so much. We are at time. You may remember that in July we had Alan on. That was a wonderful time with him, and now in September we've just drunk deeply from this family worship ethos, which is so good. The end of October is the next time we're going to be together. October 30th, we're going to have Charlie Hall back on. Charlie Hall gives lead to a ton at Frontline Church in Oklahoma City, but also helped write probably some of the songs that you could sing in a family worship moment, Marvelous Light, and has been a faithful steward of leading worship teams for decades. And so we're really excited to have Charlie back on. So lots coming. We're going to do another one of these breakouts after that in the months following. So lots to look forward to. Sam and Becki, again, thank you so much, and the team that's carrying that forth. And guys, we just pray you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you guys.
guys.
Thanks for joining. Bless you all.
All right. Thank you guys. We love you all.